title, they knew that she was close to God. Personal devotion to over Barak told go with only if you warrior you go with me. There's not really a masculine way to say that. He was obviously scared. He's like, yeah, I'll go. But only if you go with me. Why? Because he knew that because God, when no one else will go, trust in the Lord matters. Very well, she replied. She said, I'll go with you. But you will receive no honor in this venture, for the Lord's victory over Sisera will be at the hands of a woman. So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. She said, you will receive no honor in this venture. So last time when we were talking about the judge that God had raised up to deliver the people, and we talked about Ehud, Scripture tells us that he was left-handed, but really what it's saying is that he was deficient in his right hand. He couldn't wield a weapon, not like the other warriors could, and it put him at a disadvantage in typical battle. However, it was his disadvantage from other people's perspective that God used in order to allow him to deliver the people from the oppression. Similarly, in this context, whenever they're talking about warfare and these warriors, okay, big, strong Barak, if him and Deborah got into a wrestling match, he would probably win, right? That's how they viewed this, okay? Culturally, Deborah would not have had as much influence even, typically, as Barak would have, because she was a woman and he was a man, and they thought of him as a warrior and a leader type. And so already, God is doing the same thing over again. He's taking what culture would have looked at and said, this is a weakness, or this prevents her from being a mighty warrior, and he's using exactly that to deliver his people from oppression. Pretty cool. Nobody would go after the enemy army that God had already said, I will give you victory over, except for Deborah. She had a close relationship with God, and she knew that he had already given the victory to his people. This is the pattern. If we remember how God has treated his people in the past and all the way through the conquest of the promised land, God would tell his people, I have already given you victory, I'm going ahead of you. And then they get ready. This is the day the Lord will give you victory over Sisera, for the Lord is marching ahead of you. That sounds very similar to what we were reading all through Joshua. The Lord goes before you. So Barak led his 10,000 warriors down the slopes of Mount Tabor into battle. And when Barak attacked, the Lord threw Sisera and all of his chariots and warriors into a panic. Sisera leapt down from his chariot and escaped on foot. And then Barak chased him. This guy was strong. Army when it stands up toe-to-toe with the Lord of the universe. No contest. No contest. The Lord throws them into a panic. Sisera hops out of his chariot and runs away. And then Barak continues to chase the enemy all the way back to where they came from, killing all the war. But you and I are still part of God's people because we've put our faith in Jesus and we're part of the church. If you've trusted in the Lord, you are God's people. He's still going to accomplish the thing that he set out to do. In just a moment, ran to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber, the Kenite. Heber's family, this is Jael's husband, their family was on good terms with the Canaanites and the king that had been oppressing Israel for 20 years. So she's not an Israelite. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, come into my tent, sir. Come in. Don't be afraid. Always a bad idea. So he went into her tent and she covered him with a blanket. Please give me some water, he said. I'm thirsty. So she gave him some milk from a leather bag and covered him again. Stand at the door of the tent, he told her. If anybody comes and asks you if there is anyone here, say no. And she's taking good care of him. And she's like, it's fine. Don't worry. Here's some warm milk. And she stands at the door of the tent. But when Sisera fell asleep from exhaustion, Jael quietly crept up to him with a hammer and a tent peg in her hand. And then she drove the tent peg through his temple and into the ground, and so he died. Served the Lord's purposes. Served the Lord's purposes. She still served Yahweh, the one true God. This is interesting because she actually comes from, the people that she comes from, Heber of the Kenites. The Kenites were descendants of Moses' brother-in-law, father-in-law,